So tell me about mind body in general and how that plays a role in focus and learning,
Well, back to
or, or
your
mindfulness.
yeah, to your point about balancing, whether strengthening a person's ability to balance is what ultimately overcomes their learning issue or not.
Mhm.
Um,
I think it's one component. I wasn't trying to claim that it was everything.
Yeah, yeah, no, no. I mean, I'm saying it could. We just don't. I don't really know. But what I do know is that that type of training, that type of whether it's a martial art or yoga or horseback riding,
Hmm.
does allow these children an opportunity to really feel their body in space when they might not otherwise
Right.
even think about it. A lot of these children do have visual spatial processing issues and
Yes.
a lot of difficulty controlling their bodies. My oldest daughter would sometimes fall down from a simple standing position just out of nowhere. We it's like
Okay.
wonder how on earth you would do that.
Yeah.
Um, and so it brings a mindfulness to sensations in their own body and an awareness of like, oh, well, when my tummy starts to feel this way, that means I'm about to get really nervous. Or when my neck feels this way, it means I'm probably going to get mad. And well, it's so difficult for young children in particular to control their impulses. Um, Having that greater sense of the body, anyway, at least starts to move them in that direction.
Right.
Um,
Yeah, we've seen a lot of progress with proprioception, um, as and my wife and I, having taught the martial arts for 20 years, and not just a normal martial arts school, one that was completely full of kids with autism and ADHD and everything, that we could actually look, and I think, at a person's body motion, the way they move the body when they learned. And I mean, we weren't diagnosing, but we were dead on when we said, hey, this one's got this and this one's got that. Um, and
yeah,
I think I mentioned in an email to you that yesterday we attended UC Berkeley for graduation.
right. That's congrats.
Yeah, that young man came to us. He was Asperger's. He was violent. He was antisocial. He would throw t- chairs at his teachers in school.
Throwing chairs, that's a common one.
Is it? Yeah, okay.
Yeah.
But he did bring himself into our classes. He did it on his own. He wanted to change. And, he had the same thing we saw with all Asperger's, that they had no, we tell them to move their right hand and their left foot would move. And there's this jerky, it's just a jerky motion that they have. And it's really strange that we correlate as his motion developed, his Asperger's symptoms seemed to fade away. And this was a kid that was going to be put in a group home, and
Wow.
yesterday graduated UC Berkeley, and
That's
he's,
phenomenal. That's
you
really
know,
wonderful.
yeah. So it's just really amazing to see and fulfilling to see. And you mentioned the visual spatial. So the visual spatial happens in the hippocampus, and of course that is where the logical thinking, it starts and sends it to the BFC too. So there seems to be some relationship there.
I'm sure there is. No, so as I mentioned, the first step towards inhibiting a behavior is even being aware that you are about to do it in the first
Okay,
place.
right.
And that's the biggest challenge is most of the time this behavior occurs before the child even is aware that it's about to occur. And
Hmm.
then they get yelled at for something and they don't even remember doing it or why they did it.
Hmm.
So, talking to the child about, well, what was going on for you right before you did that? How did
Hmm.
your body feel in that moment?
Okay, yeah.
Um,
I had.
and
I'm sorry. I had a lot of those talks with this young man through his development, because he would claim, "Oh, I'm Asperger's. I don't have emotions," and like, "Oh, yes, you do. Just find them," And so yeah, all of those things. That's fantastic. So but it roots in in the mind body awareness, and then that allows them to
Mhm.
find how those emotions feel. Is that what we're?
Right, exactly. So always, you know, not just talking about emotions, but talking about how did the body feel when you had that emotion.
Hmm.
Um, One thing I like to suggest for parents that have children that get emotionally dysregulated a lot, because that's a very big one with ADHD and autism as well, is to create what we call a sensory box. And so it's a
Hmm.
box filled with objects that relate to all of the senses. So it might be, you know, something that feels really nice, something that's joyful to look at, something that smells nice,
Hmm.
something that has a nice sound to it if you move it, but that the child picks themselves. So they're helping to create this sensory box. And whenever they experience a really big emotion, it's something they can go to. Hey, you know, I see that you're really upset right now. Maybe it's time to pull out the sensory box and have a little chill out time. And so it's an opportunity for the child to learn how to regulate themselves without just being told to go to your room for a timeout. Um,
Excellent. Right. I see lots of examples of sensory boxes on Pinterest. So if you search on
oh,
Pinterest for that, you'll thousands and thousands of results. So
oh,
that's
great.
really
Okay.
popular. Yeah.